The only thing better than chocolate? International chocolate. But you don't need to go to a specialty shop to find it. Here's how 14 different Aldi bars ranked, from worst to best. This video was adapted from an article written by Carly Hoke on Matched.com. Before I get into it, I just want to say that almost nothing on this list ranked the way I thought it would. I'm a cookies and cream fan through and through, and it is my preferred ice cream flavor. To have Choceur's milk chocolate cookies and cream bar fall to the very bottom of this list was a total shock. I loved that the chocolate was very shareable and easily stored. When it comes to taste and texture though, this bar bombed. The cookies and cream flavor was present, but seemed to lean toward creamy. It was a whole lot of sweetness with no good crunch. I'd say the texture was more of a wet crumble, like the last dregs of a cookies and cream milkshake. It wasn't a bad quality chocolate, but I would not purchase it again. I'm usually quite a big fan of hazelnut and chocolate, but this Choceur bar fell very short. The chocolate was overly sweet, and the hazelnut flavor didn't do much to complement it. There was also the addition of a milk flavor, which I found only added to the sweetness of the chocolate without offering up much else. It was not only the taste that disappointed me when I tried this bar. The texture felt like an odd mix of creaminess and chalkiness, which I was not a fan of. I also wanted more of a crunch factor from the hazelnuts. Instead, they were chopped up into fine pieces, so there was very little action in the way of bite. This chocolate gets placed near the bottom of the pack because I didn't find it particularly enjoyable at all. Out of all the chocolates I taste tested, I was most looking forward to Choceur's milk chocolate salted pretzel pieces bar. I was also, unfortunately, most disappointed with it. I love salty, sweet flavor combinations that work well together, and chocolate-covered pretzels are a go-to for me. I expected biting into this bar to be very similar to what I've come to know with similar snacks. The actual bite, though, was quite lackluster. I had hoped the pretzel pieces would simply be bits of broken pretzels like the packaging suggested.
This is pretzel day.
However, the pretzels were uniform bean-shaped nuggets sprinkled within the chocolate bar. The texture was majorly disappointing and did not have the crunch of a fresh pretzel. It actually tasted as if stale pretzels had been used. Luckily, the salt factor was still present, which was the only redeeming property. Though it is not one of Aldi's two house chocolate brands, Schogetten is a prominent option at the German chain. That said, I would not purchase this flavor again. Caramel and brownie should have played well together for a sweet and gooey chocolate bar, but I found the combo tasted a bit forced. The brownie and caramel tastes were there, but they didn't mesh well. There was an extra flavor present that I felt interrupted the union of caramel and brownie, keeping them from reaching their full potential. The chocolate was a bit too milky in taste, but interestingly enough, this did not reach the texture. The consistency was a step above too creamy. Meanwhile, instead of being gooey, the caramel was crunchy. I actually enjoyed this element as it was a saving grace for a very average bar. Knoppers seems to be an entity with its own identity. The German chocolate was made up of layers of wafer, hazelnut, and milk creme, which made for a very sweet treat. While this chocolate was decent, I didn't really have any strong feelings toward it. I enjoyed all of the flavors it brought to the table, but wasn't overly impressed with the candy itself. The only thing that really stuck out to me was the sheer amount of wafer involved, which I did not love. If one or even two of the wafer layers were to be done away with, I feel the treat would be improved. As it is, the texture felt a bit too chalky and downplayed the layers of flavor that were almost hidden within. That being said, I do not think this candy should be entirely avoided. Aldi's 5-pack could be a solid pick for a family with a few kids. This is about where the tide started to turn for me. I was especially excited to try the Choceur milk chocolate peanuts and cornflakes bar because I've never seen cornflakes used in a chocolate bar before.
They're sweet, they're crunchy, they're great!
The consistency did not have as much bite as I expected, which might be because I anticipated more crunch from the cornflakes. I had envisioned the same level of crunch as dry cornflakes, not anticipating that the chocolate would make it much milder. This bar was basically a peanut chocolate bar with a bit of extra texture, and using cornflakes to achieve this variation was an interesting choice. I feel as though this bar is both a novelty, but remains a safe choice for those who like a solid chocolate bar with some texture. I do not care for anything mint flavored, but I actually found this bar to be quite pleasant. Dark chocolate is the perfect flavor to complement mint, and Moser Roth really played the two components together expertly. The mint was mild, but ever present throughout the bar. The taste reminded me vividly of a mint chocolate chip scoop, despite it being a solid decade or two since I've tried the popular ice cream flavor. I enjoyed this bar's texture as much as its flavor. There were no chunks of mint to interrupt the smooth consistency and uniform taste, which I felt was a brilliant choice. A bar like this would be great as a treat by itself, used as a palate cleanser, or to complement other flavors. Unlike nearly all of the other chocolates on this list, the Moser Roth dark chocolate sea salt bar gave me exactly what I expected. The dark chocolate was rich with a hint of bitterness, and the sea salt added just the right note. Unsurprisingly, the combination of the two flavors was a perfect duo. The smooth dark chocolate alone had a solid taste, an opinion that was established and cemented between all the Moser Roth chocolates I tried. The addition of sea salt, which can be physically seen throughout the bar, provided a bit of texture and bursts of that familiar, sharp, salty taste throughout. Choceur's milk chocolate with almond bar was another of the options I taste tested that met my expectations. I like a good nut bar, and this one contained whole almonds and was very straightforward. The Choceur milk chocolate almond bar earned a spot on the upper end of this list due to its easygoing nature. Its simplicity makes it ideal for a snacking chocolate, and one I could see making a permanent staple in my kitchen drawer. The quality and richness of the chocolate mesh with the nutty almond flavor in an almost natural way. To me, that makes this basic Choceur flavor more powerful than many of the more fun or novel Aldi chocolates I tested.
That's fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
The Schogetten crunchy peanut butter chocolate bar was akin to an elevated Reese's cup. It was very similar to what one would expect of the American candy, but I could taste higher quality ingredients at work. The chocolate and peanut butter cream complemented each other, with neither one overpowering the balance. I wish this bar had more of a crunch factor. It would have ranked a bit higher if the peanut chunks were bigger or more plentiful. However, the slight crunch of the finely chopped peanuts was not a total loss. There is something to be said about subtlety, and I felt like this chocolate bar did a great job of keeping the presence of crunch alive without letting it dominate. Biting into the Choceur milk chocolate coconut flakes bar was the most shocking moment of all the taste tests for me. I have historically despised the texture of coconut flakes, and it has kept me away from anything related to coconut. This has become something of a character trait for me, which now must change because I quite enjoyed this chocolate bar. To tackle the texture issue, there actually wasn't much of one. I was worried because the coconut flakes were quite heavily spread throughout the bar. However, the chocolate seemed to completely coat each flake and cover up the typical coconut texture I associate with the flakes. Instead, the coconut was almost blended into the chocolate, adding ripples to the creaminess of the bar. The taste of the coconut was more overpowering than the texture, but it was not unpleasant. Instead, the milk chocolate's sweetness was seemingly balanced out by it. Sweet and spicy is a flavor combination that almost always hits, and so I was not surprised that I found the dark chocolate and chili flavor by Moser Roth to be so good. What I didn't expect, though, was for my 4-year-old to love the chili-infused chocolate bar too. As I expected a good amount of heat from this bar, I had no intention to offer it to my son. He chose to try this chocolate out of all the options available, so I went with it out of curiosity. The heat was nowhere near as powerful as I had expected, but the presence of spice was certainly there. The chili flavor was very slight at first, but came on pronounced in the aftertaste. This Moser Roth bar had a very uniform, smooth texture that held my attention. Not only did I enjoy this flavor, but it is apparently kid-approved as well.
Tastes good.
Chocolate and oranges often get lumped together around the holiday season, and I have never understood why. Moser Roth's dark chocolate orange almond flavor sealed the deal for me on the flavor combination, and I'm all in. The bitterness of the dark chocolate perfectly complemented the small chunks of orange, creating what is now one of my all-time favorite Aldi products. The chocolate itself had a slight orange flavor throughout. My praise for this chocolate bar doesn't stop at the taste, as the texture was phenomenal as well. Instead of just a smooth bar of chocolate, this Moser Roth variety had an impressive depth I did not get in any of the other Aldi chocolates I taste tested. Chunks of chewy orange and crunchy almond bits were scattered throughout the bar. There's a lot going on in this small, thin bar, but every element works together in a heavenly balance. As follows with the theme of the majority of this list, the number one spot came as a massive shock to me. I don't think I've reached for white chocolate since I was a small child. That's how much I dislike the chocolate variant. However, I found myself blown away by the Moser Roth white chocolate Madagascan vanilla bar. It wasn't just the pleasant surprise that secured the number one spot for this Aldi sweet, but a smooth combination of well-balanced flavors. People say that white chocolate isn't real chocolate, and I used to kind of agree, finding it too sickly sweet to be chocolate. And while it was indeed sweet, the vanilla and white chocolate flavors combined beautifully into a delicious taste. I'd reach for this bar again without hesitation, and I may even give white chocolate another chance altogether thanks to this surprising win.